Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
While described as a powerful and a relatively new method for analysing complex problems and finding sustainable solutions, organisational constellations can be used for diagnostic purposes or to gain insight into the potential consequences of a decision made within a business environment. Rebecca Hadrill, who works as a family and organisational constellations facilitator, joins us now to tell us about the benefits which organisational constellations can deliver to business owners and their employees. Rebecca, we'll be discussing the upcoming two-day workshop which you will be hosting about organisational constellations. But first, I'd like to get an insight into your own career path.
Good morning, Karl. Thank you for having me. Sure. So I started out with law, actually, as a background. So I studied law and European studies in Limerick. And then I went to train as a barrister. And from there, I went on to work in a lot of project roles I worked in the Environmental Agency and the Legal Aid Board. And the Injuries Board, so I had a lot of varied experience. And then when I went to London, I worked for the UK Government Department of Health, and then I moved to the World's Dementia Council. So a lot of interesting experience. I then decided to take a year out, and with that it brought me to work in the arts. So I worked as an assistant cruise director and a presenter for a cruise ship, and made my way back to Ireland. So now I have been working here for the last 5 years now in a Dublin-based strategic advisory firm.
So how did you come in contact with organisational constellations?
Well, how it happened was about 12 years ago, I attended a workshop in family constellations, and I dipped in and out of different workshops and events over the years. And then I came across Roisin Fallon, who is running training in family constellations facilitator training in Ireland a few years back. So I trained with her and guest trainer Barbara Morgan. And then I discovered organisational constellations and thought this would be a really nice fit with my background as well. I really love the work. I'm very passionate about it because I love seeing the light bulbs that go off in people, and how, seeing things with a wider view and seeing things as they are can really help bring a relaxation to you and bring about order and find ways to better.
So what are organisational constellations?
Okay, so what it is basically is a powerful, intuitive method, or if you want to say a diagnostic tool. And we're using white brain intelligence here to explore and analyse a business organisational issue that might seem complex. And it helps basically give you insights very quickly, test alternatives and find paths to solutions, and provide assistance. It could provide assistance to a team or a department or a firm, or help restore flow and order and get you back on track. It's actually been very popular in the Netherlands, and they use it in their government and their army. And in Brazil, they've also introduced this method into their legal system. So it's really quite fascinating how it's being used worldwide and how it's growing and developing as a method.
And what type of complex issues can the organisational constellation method help business to address?
So, for example, it could be you might have rigidity in your organisation or business. There could be a lack of flow. It could be that there's high turnover of staff. You lack focus or clarity in your goals or your vision. You might need help with team conflict. There could be broken connections between different departments. So all that type of stuff. It could be that you need help with project planning and or making decisions or strengthening your leadership. But I just want to mention as well that if we look at it as we're looking at the system as a whole, and if we look at any system, and we all bring our own family system to wherever we work, there are principles that govern social systems, and these are derived, they're innate, but they can also be derived from observation in constellations. And I just want to mention that these are belongings, so everybody has a place. Unlike a family, in a business, you have choice whether you leave or go or stay. Time and place must be acknowledged. So acknowledging all that came before and respect for the hierarchy and an exchange. So is there a balance of give and take, of contribution and recognition? And what we're doing in a constellation is we're seeking to understand what ordering principles have been violated or disrupted that have caused injury to the system. And using this approach helps look at all these elements and how they interact with each other. Because in a system, we not only have the business, we have the suppliers, the products, the market, the employees, and they're all interacting with each other. So really, it's quite a versatile approach. And if, for example, as well, if you're talking about other areas, say you want to test out new products or services, or you want to clarify your own position in a company, for example, it's also very useful for that.
So once you go into an organisation with a view to implementing this method, what's involved from a practical perspective?
In essence, what we're doing is we are creating a living map of your issue and your system, a 3D visual, or let's say a spatial representation. And what we're doing is how we do this. So I, as a facilitator, will interview the person, so whoever wants to look at an issue, the client, let's say. We do a short interview where we establish the facts. Then what we do is we define the problem or the issue and what elements do we need to look at. So it could be, I need to look at the company, the team, a certain department, or it could be a specific role or something like that. Then I ask the client to choose representatives from the group. So this is if we're in a group workshop. Can you please choose people to represent those elements and place them on the floor? So we set up a spatial map using the representatives. Then we sit back and the client gets to observe where they are in the system. So it takes them out and gives them a much wider view. And then we analyse the dynamics and we observe who is looking where, what's the distance between them, how is everybody feeling in this setup. And usually it's better to do it with neutral representatives, so people who are not connected to the business or the organisation. And then what happens is we can use interventions, very simple, effective interventions. So it could be sentences, you came first, without you, I wouldn't be here. So a real acknowledgement of who came before. We might ask people to change certain movements. All the while we're trying to bring in back balance and harmony to the system, and we're finding a way to a solution.
And Rebecca, what are the desirable components of an organisational constellation?
Well, really, number one, you'd have to have an issue to look at. So there's no point coming with a vague, I'm curious about blah, blah, blah. So you want something concrete that you want to look at. And really, I would say be open to the process. As I said, if you're doing it in a group, it's ideal that that everyone's neutral, because people are more open to the process. Whereas if you were doing it in a company scenario, you might not be open to express your feelings and all if you're sitting next to your boss, or to talk about an issue with a conflict that you're having if someone's sitting next to you. So I would say that's desirable as well. But really just to it's more right brain intelligence. So this is an opportunity, instead of just using systemic thinking, we're really, I'm going to say, systemic feeling. So it's sensing. How am I in my body? How am I in this position? When I look over there, how do I feel about that? And all the information that you're feeling and sensing is always information for the client that is usually very accurate and relevant.
And what results have organisational constellations delivered? And do you have any practical case study examples that you can share with us this morning?
Sure, I can give you some examples. So there was one person was a restaurant owner. He was founder of the restaurant, and it was a family-run business actually. And he decided to retire. So the business was very well established, very loyal customers. It was really well known. Everyone was happy. He left the company, and then suddenly, over a period of time, the customers declined, the business declined. The new owner came to do a constellation, and what had happened, and you see this time and time again, is that the new founder had been forgotten and completely forgotten about. The whole history, or the whole memory of the founder had been wiped out, let's say. So what they did was they put a picture on the wall of the founder. This business was founded by XYZ person, and the history of the restaurant. And just by simply acknowledging and re-including him into the restaurant and the business, then everything starts to pick up again, and customers returned and numbers were good. So just to mention, that can happen sometimes when a founder is forgotten. You must respect what is, but also respect everything that came before you, because that disrupts the flow of the organisation. Is one aspect. Another example I can give you, there was another person recently was looking, should I take a promotion? So what we did was we set up the constellation to test out how would the system respond to this person in her new role. and it didn't respond very well for some parts of it. So she decided not to take the promotion, and later when I checked in with her, she was happy that she didn't, because further developments arose in the business that she was unhappy about.
Fascinating examples, I have to say, Rebecca. Now, how do these constellations consider variables such as human behaviour?
You know, it's really quite interesting because we come from human systems. So when we step into any system, we're also bringing our own system. So we emerge from our family system, we learn ways of being, patterns of behaviour. And usually we seek out unconsciously, we will seek out similar systems to belong to. And then each system then will bring up new dynamics for us to adapt to or shape into.
And tell us about the 2-day workshop which is coming up and the content which will be covered on these days.
Okay, so for the 2-day workshop in Dublin on the 5th and 6th of October, we decided 2 days because we really want people to immerse into the work. And what we're doing is we're giving you an understanding of what organisational constellations is and how it emerged. We're also giving you the opportunity to experience the process for yourself. So we will give exercises in pairs, in small groups, and we will do constellations we'll work with people's cases or issues. So anyone who would like to have a piece of work done, myself and Wouter Gayson, the co-facilitator, we can facilitate a constellation for people. And we're also going to teach you very simple tools that you can take away and start using on Monday morning when you go back to work. So that's the idea. It's very experiential, and I'm just so excited about the work that I want to share it with everybody. And just to mention Wouter Gayson, he is the founder of Out of Our Minds and Systemic Shifts, trained organisational constellators from Belgium. And he's also organised Unleash Your Business Potential online summit on the 18th and 19th of November.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Rebecca Hadrill, Family and Organisational Constellations Facilitator, and I'd like to thank Rebecca for sharing her insights into this innovative problem-solving method with us this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.